half an hour on there.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Talkin Investing. You are here with Tom and George.
George on the road.
On a red Friday. George is on the road, traveling to his next destination. All right. Rough week. Hello, everybody. Hello to a bunch of the members that I see in the chat. Hello, Ethan and Minor Dog and Edmund and Sour Melon Gaming. And if I missed Audible Coast, JD, Pogo. If I missed anybody, hello. And hello to everybody out there. So we're going to start out. We got 9 likes. Let's get rolling. If you would please smash the like button. Let everybody know we're here and we need to talk about what is going on. A couple of announcements from some Bitcoin miners this week, and then just not a good week. I'm sorry. I mean, you can see the board here. Today was red. This week was red. Bitcoin's in a little bit of a pullback. There are a few trends that are concerning me a little bit on the bigger picture time frame, but I think they're still more bullish than bearish in my personal opinion. So I remain bullish, even though I do have one thing I will show you that looks a little disturbing to me.
Uh-oh. I don't like that, Tom.
Well, yeah, it's a technical analysis thing, and you guys know how I feel about technical analysis. It's hit or miss, and every one of them can't be right, and they never all agree. So, you know, if there's one outlier, I'm not worried about it. I still feel pretty strongly that we're doing some consolidation here. I think the next leg is up. I got a bunch of articles that talk about right now. Everyone's talking about going down to 80,000. So that just double makes me feel like we're not going down to 80,000.
Oh, I hope so. That'd be awesome.
Well, I mean, you know what happens when something becomes the talking point. It very rarely happens. So that's the new talking point.
I could do 80. I'm okay with 80.
Right. Even if we were to pull back to 80, if I go to the 1 day, so we topped out a little over 108. So if we were to go all the way down to 80, that would be a 26% pullback. So that is not impossible. We've had already one in the last year pullback that's larger than that. This would be the second largest pullback. We had 5 pullbacks of 20% or more in the year 2024. One of them was over 30%. The rest were really between 20 and 23%. So this would be a little bit high, but that would be a 26% pullback. So even that really wouldn't be bearish. That would not be a bearish signal. I don't think it's going to happen, but let's see. Sour Melon Gaming, 22 months as a member. Thank you very much. Sour Melon Gaming says 60 to 70% of my year-to-date miner gains were wiped out in the last few weeks. 2024 was yet another disaster. If miners don't start doing their thing in Q1, I'm out. So I think that there's a lot of people. I have 2 answers to that, Sour Melon Gaming. I know you stuck in there and you bought at the right time, I think, as we've talked over time through the channel. So, you know, but it's true. I mean, I've gotten decimated, and the month of December was a nightmare. And I think most people are a step ahead of you. Most retail investors already got out. And so, you know, if the miners haven't turned around by the end of Q1, we're going to definitely be having some long discussions on this channel, because that to me would be that would be of concern to me. That would be of big concern to me. So, you know, that's only just a little over 3 months from now, the next 95 days.
How do we do what the Bitcoin miners did and go and raise capital another way instead of, you know, an ATM anymore? You know, how do consumers do that? Yeah,
consumers, Good luck. you know, you can hope I'll tell you, there's a kind of an answer to that. I mean, are we going to move into some quantitative easing by the Fed? Are they going to push some more money into the market? If, you know, interest rates, if the longer term interest rates, which have been very stubborn, and with, you know, Jerome Powell's speech in his December meeting, he didn't help that at all. But I do believe, so I think they're going to do a lot of rate cuts in 2025. I think, you know, they talked a big talk, but reality is going to set in. And I believe they will do their rate cuts. And, you know, I also think they're going to be pushing money into the market. So
I have another question. Who is replacing Powell?
Well, we don't know, and his term doesn't end until 2026.
Oh, I thought he said he was stepping down.
Gary Gensler is stepping down. Jerome Powell has no intention of stepping down. He's a very defiant individual. He did stick to his guns over the last couple of years and, you know, do his own thing. And, you know, a couple of meetings ago, he says that, you know, the president doesn't have the authority to fire me. And then last meeting, he said the president or that the Federal Reserve will not buy Bitcoin. And I felt that was almost a misleading statement because there's nobody that thought the Federal Reserve was going to be buying Bitcoin. So there was no reason to say that they wouldn't. So, you know, that's different than a United States Bitcoin Reserve, which would have to do with the Treasury Department. So that's, you know, those are two totally different things.
Hey, does anybody know if Elon Musk sold Bitcoin? His holder?
Oh, yeah. Drop in the comments. George heard rumor that Elon Musk sold his Bitcoin personally, you said, to avoid a conflict of interest.
Yes.
And Clive is saying, thinking about rolling out my January 25th options to later this year. I know January, and I stayed away from January 25th because I did feel like it was going to be a little bit later. So I think, you know, if I had January 25th, so I'd probably do the same thing. But, you know, it's a long time between now and January 25th, and we can see how fast sentiment changes. I mean, it was only 2 weeks ago. It was like we were at 108,000 and the sky was the limit, and we're going to 120 by the end of the year for sure, you know, maybe 150. You know, now all that has evaporated, and now we're asking ourselves, are we going to 80,000? So sentiment changes very quickly. This is an extremely volatile space. I mean, if I've said that one time, I've said it thousands of times on this channel. And that's why the volatility is real. I mean, but I do not think that this bull run is over. I think we still have not gotten to the real acceleration in this bull run. And this one's a little bit, they've all been a little bit different, but in a lot of ways they've all been similar. And, you know, we haven't gotten that last piece of the run up, and that's the big one. So I believe that's ahead of us. As we've done polls over the last 3 or 4 live streams, both the public live stream and the members only live stream, somewhere around 70% have been voting that Bitcoin's going to get over $200,000 in this bull market. So, I mean, by that measure, that's a double from here, more than a double. So I think that leaves an awful lot of room for the upside, and obviously for the Bitcoin miners, you know, yes, this is later than I expected them to move. I bought this week again, and I can't help it. I guess I could help it, but I felt like they're giving this stuff away, and that doesn't mean I bought it knowing that doesn't mean it couldn't get worse, because it can get worse. What if we do dip down to 80,000? Then I will dollar cost average in probably 2 more times at least between now and then. But when I see Bitfarms under $1.60, that is a joke. I don't care how you feel about Bitfarms. So in my opinion, to me, that's ridiculous. When I see CleanSpark with a 9 in front of it, yes, I'm buying. Sour Melon Gaming, thanks for the super chat. Sour Melon Gaming said, why are fees in the dirt while Bitcoin has run up huge? You know, I don't know what the answer to that question is. I mean, more importantly, because these Bitcoin miners have ramped up. So we'll take a look at what they're doing. And there's a couple of announcements of what they're about to do. And they're some of the Bitcoin miners have doubled, tripled, quadrupled in size. I mean, and they have plans to continue to grow. So it's not that they're not mining enough Bitcoin. These companies are all going to be profitable in the fourth quarter of 2024. And I say all of them. So, you know, that there may be an exception or two, but as a rule, particularly, certainly, the companies that are hodling are going to have a huge fourth quarter. And even if they're not hodling, at Bitcoin $95,000, these guys are all minting money, right? Nobody's energy cost is anywhere a third of that. I see George trying to come back on. I think he lost his connection. He is driving on the road. Major road trip. So we're at 41 likes. If you could do us a favor and smash the like button, that would help the live stream out in real time a lot. We always try to get to 100 likes, and then we try to get to 200 likes. And then I know later, you know, as the week goes on, we get to 300 or 400. But the ones that help us are during the live stream itself. So enough said.
I'm back, Tom.
George, welcome back.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Used to love that show.
That's a classic. A lot of those shows were classics. I think that they're very dated now, and I think it's hard to get the next generation to watch shows from the 60s and 70s, and now I'm dating myself.
I think you got a good poll question right there about the Bitcoin, by the way.
What's the question?
Where is it going?
Let's do it. Yeah, let's get that poll up and running. That's a good question.
I would try to do that poll, but you know what? Driving, doing 80, you know, that's probably the one thing I can't do. I heard that XRP is going to retrace to 150.
So I'm going to do two polls.
Two polls. Are you going to do which is the person that camps out in the left lane the most?
Is what?
Sorry. What car camps out in the left lane more than any other car? There is one particular car. I've gotten it down to 3 cars altogether, but there's one. Actually, there's 2. There's 4. I just read a study about Tesla drivers being the worst drivers on the road.
Well, that's because they're trying to let the car do their thing and they're not paying attention.
Oh, excuses.
I don't want to group everybody together. Everybody's Bitcoin's next move. So are we going to go from here? We're kind of stuck in the middle. Is our next move up? Are we going to consolidate here and move up and get past 108,000, which is our new all-time high? Or is the next move to the downside and we're going to test 85 or 80,000 to get a full, 20% or 20 to 25% pullback? Which direction are we going next? Understanding we may go sideways for a period of time in the middle, but once we break out of this sideways movement, where are we going? That's the question. And Minor Deegan said Bitfarms should have taken Riot's $2.30 offer. I will tell you, Bitfarms is in no financial trouble at all. They have a strong balance sheet. They're not going anywhere. They're being sold off in a way that to me is totally artificial. So I don't, they're being priced to fail. And I know people have lost confidence in management, and I understand why that is the case. You know, the board of directors, the hostile takeover, the firing of the CEO. There's stuff going on there. But most importantly, they missed their target. They promised all year they were going to get to 21 exahash by the end of the year, and they didn't do it. And they didn't tell us until the 11th hour. So there's a lot of reasons that people are maybe angry at Bitfarms or that Bitfarms is out of favor right now. But to be trading under $1.60 is just nonsensical, in my opinion. So I had no choice. I bought a bunch of Bitfarms. And for those who are new to the channel, I bought all the way through the crypto winter. So, you know, I dollar cost averaged way down, and several months ago I said I'm done buying. I have filled out every position that I need for this run, and I felt like that was true. But they have just given us buying opportunities that I never thought we would see. I never thought we would see these buying opportunities with Bitcoin at this price. So I'm buying them. So unless you believe all these guys are just going to fail, I mean, that's what they're pricing for. And I'm going to give you an example of what I think is going to happen to every single one of these, because one of them has already done it. And I think everyone's going to get their turn, and the retail investors are going to have to be unreasonably patient to make their money this time around. That's what I think. But I think that Bitcoin will go way beyond. Somebody just initiated coverage on them and gave them a $6 price target. You know, for whatever that's worth. I understand I take those, you know, the analysts with a grain of salt because they're all over the place and they have their own agendas. But to put it in perspective, they were recently, somebody opened coverage on them with a $6 price target. And that's a 1-year target. And
Tom, are you worried about,
go ahead, George.
Are you worried about the inverse on the interest rates on the T-bills?
Am I worried about what?
The inverse with the long-term debt.
You know, the long-term debt is unbelievably stubborn, which says that people do not believe in these rate cuts. They do not believe that inflation is under control, and the long-term rates are stubborn. And I think it's going to take, it's going to take more time. The Fed waited a lot longer. The rate cuts we thought we were going to get in March and April, we ended up getting in September and December. So that higher for longer, and people don't trust that inflation is going to come down. Everybody's very worried that inflation is going to rear its ugly head again. I am not. I will tell you, I think there were a lot of reasons we just ran into some really bad inflation. I mean, 2022, 2023, inflation was a nightmare. But in my mind, the reason it spiraled as far out of control as it did was the black swan event we had in 2020. As things unfolded, that was the natural ending of that. We did, in the United States, we spiked to over 9%. In Europe, it was way worse than that. Around other places in the world, it was much worse than that. But that's over now. So, maybe we're not going to hit our 2% target. But if we're at 3%, I think you could see us move into a deflationary period for a period of time. I also think, we might see a recession in the next 18 months.
I'm rooting for a de-inflationary time.
Yeah, and I think that's possible. I know that's not what people are talking about right now. Obviously, the long-term interest rates are showing us people think the opposite is true, but let's see. Let's talk in 6 months. So Bitcoin's next move, and then I'll get the next one up. Bitcoin's next move up to a new high at 61%, down to test 80 to 85K, 39%. So almost basically 60-40. That is very close. So I'm going to leave that open for 2 more minutes. If you want to vote, if you can vote on the device you're on, tell us where you think Bitcoin's going, and then I got the next poll lined up for us. Earlier, Edmund had said, Tom, why don't you just buy MicroStrategy? Well, I will tell you, I did add. That's one of the things I dollar cost averaged into. And it was like, again, I just didn't think I think I had $325. And intraday, a month ago, MicroStrategy was at $543. So to me, the opportunity to buy it at $325, again, just like with Bitfarms, I think it's a ridiculous overreaction. And that all started with somebody doing a short report. And, you know, the day it hit its all-time high, a short report was put out. And now we're getting what I consider a buying opportunity. So time will tell. I think a lot of these Bitcoin miners are at numbers that are just, I can't even understand that they're at these numbers. It's ridiculous. That's my not financial advice.
I wonder if a short report's coming out on these miners. Ooh, that would be ugly.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time. We've had a couple of short reports. Way back in the day, BitDigital had a scathing short report that basically said they're a fake company. And, you know, they've evolved a lot since then. That was maybe close to 4 years ago. But more recently than that, there was a report that trashed Hut 8. And, you know, look what their stock did. If you're Hut 8, and I'll tell you, because I spent a lot of time scratching my head saying, why did they have, I want to go to a chart. I spent a lot of time scratching my head saying, why on earth in the same SEC filing would you do a $500 million at the market offering and a $250 million stock buyback program? To me, that seemed like madness. And one of the members mentioned a good reason, and then I did hear the CEO say the exact same thing, and I want to go to the chart and show you what I'm talking about. So if you look at Hut, here's what the CEO basically said. Look, we were at $22. And then all of a sudden we were at $6. Then we were at $21, and then all of a sudden we were at, $9 or $8. So he said, we're going to have both programs open. If people want to drive our stock down to $6 or $7 or $8 or $9, we're going to sell at, 22 or 25 or 30, and we're going to buy at 6 or 9 or 10 if that happens to us again. So, what the member had said is it's protection against short selling the stock down to a ludicrous number. And that's pretty much what he said. So, okay, right? I mean, if they had raised their money here and then did a buyback here, I think everybody would have been thrilled about that. Sour Melon Gaming, I deployed all my April tax money today. Okay, so you were debating this, so here's the answer. Into Iron and CleanSpark, willing to take the gamble at these prices. Worst case, Uncle Tom can come rescue me in April. I mean, I know that I can see the temptation because I bought CleanSpark as well. I bought a bunch of stuff this week. I was very active in what was a short week because they were just giving prices. I mean, CleanSpark at $9, and it closed at $9.78 today. If you look at CleanSpark, I mean, I have this trading range that I had identified that they pop back up into. And I said, okay, we're getting back on track between $14, and $24. Well, now they're back down under $10. And I had said anything under $12 is crazy time, in my opinion. And now they're under $10. Yeah, could they get lower? They sure could, because they got down to $7.60 back on September 6th. That was the day every single Bitcoin miner hit a low. And, they got down under $8. Well, let's see. $8.04. So could they go lower from here? I suppose they could. I'll buy again if they do. I'm not going to, if they're down 5%, I'm not going to buy again. But if they retest this low, I will definitely buy again here. This is not financial advice, right? And I know the hard part is there's only so many times you could dollar cost average in, which is why I took I had 2+ full months where I did 0 purchases of anything. Remember, we had that 7-month window of kind of going sideways and down. So I had maybe 2.5 months where I didn't buy a thing. But then these buying opportunities started to pop up that, to me, it's like, if this is the way they're going to play it, right, you got to have a plan, but it's got to be flexible. And when I see CleanSpark, a company, they put out a press release. We'll go take a look at their press release. They basically put out a press release to tell us they're killing it this year, which they are, and the market is destroying them. I mean, they are down from, well, that's all the way from March. Forget that. From November. It's December right now. They're down 45%. You tell me what CleanSpark did in November and December to warrant a 45% pullback. That is crazy. What do you think, George?
I don't know. I was just listening to you talk. It's amazing what big money can do. And that must mean that the rest of the stock market is going to plummet and then Bitcoin miners are going to take off.
Right. The money rotates. And if you're on the wrong side of that rotation, which at the moment we clearly are on the wrong side of that rotation, and it's lasted way longer than I thought it would, but that's pretty much exactly how big money makes their money.
Yeah.
With a waiting game, time. They've got all the time in the world.
And what does a normal hedge fund get as a return, Tom? End of the year.
They're all over the place. But there's, if you put your money in a hedge fund, I think you're expecting like a 20% return. But like everything else, some succeed, some fail.
Yeah, I just think of that. What was it? Arch Capital, the guy who lost $3 billion in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And it was all because he shorted something. And in the next month, he was right.
So, right, timing is everything. And if you short something, there's a big difference between buying long, which is what we all that's the normal stock transaction. You buy a share of stock. You know exactly what your downside is. If you bought $1,000 worth of a stock, you could lose $1,000. When you short a stock, your downside is basically, theoretically, infinity. Right? Because as much as that can go up is as much as you can lose. So it's a bigger risk. Now, if you're big money and these are small stocks, the manipulation goes on. And it goes on in the big stocks. Don't tell me Facebook is 500% better company than it was a year and a half ago, because that's what happened to its stock, right? The market has gone bananas. It's absolutely gone bananas. And if you can't, and that's why I don't, congratulations. If there's people timing this and buying and selling in the right time, you might be making double or triple or quadruple what I'll make by buying and holding. But I feel I'm more likely to get in and out at the wrong times and miss the run. So if you believe the run is coming, then to me, my answer is to just buy and hold and dollar cost average in, like now, even though I thought I was long since done. I bought CleanSpark today. I bought some Marathon today. I bought some MicroStrategy today. I bought some Bitfarms today. I did some buying this week. And that doesn't mean I think those are the best companies. That means those were the ones where I look at the price and I go, that price can't be real. I'm buying. Right. And there was more, but I had to stop. I mean, there's only so much I can do. But I'll give you an example of what I think is going to happen to every stock. So if we go here, I might have this open somewhere. Take a look at Bitdeer. And I know a couple of our members are holding Bitdeer. If you're holding Bitdeer from that September 6th day that we talked about when everything bottomed out, so that's 3.5 months ago. You're up 335%. Bitdeer's up 335% from September 6th to December 27th. So this is what I'm saying. The volatility is real. And when these run, they run. So if it's not your turn yet, this is very painful. But, you know, this is the types of runs you get. And then, by the way, you know, if you bought, I'm not even going to go back to the crypto winter. This was in the middle of a bull market. October 2023, we were 10 months into a bull market, and Bitdeer was trading at $2.77. So if you bought it then, you know, you're up 735% in 1 year and 2 months. So Bitdeer's gotten its turn, and I don't think it's done, right? I don't think this is its end of its run in this bull market, but it's already up. You know, it's up 300+% in the last 2 months or 4 months. So this is what can happen. And if it hasn't happened to yours, you got to ask yourself, is it because it just hasn't rotated into mine yet and they're suppressing the price? Or is it because the company I'm investing in is a bad company and they're failing? Right? And I can't answer that for anybody. Everybody's got to do their best due diligence to figure out what they think the answer to that question is. And Sour Melon Gaming is saying, if Q1 is a disaster, will you start selling? If Q1, if we are to March 31st and these stocks are trading at these numbers, yes. And I'm not saying I'm going to wholesale dump everything, but there will be to me, that will be past, you know, and obviously it depends if it's for a moment because Bitcoin's in the middle of a correction, right? If Bitcoin just had a 30% pullback, so these pulled back a little. If they haven't made their run, so at any given moment in time, they may be anywhere. But if they haven't made the next leg up, even if they pulled back from it over the next 95 days, I will be deeply concerned. So that's just me. So let's end this poll, and it got very close. 56% think the next move is up. 44% thinks that the next move is down. So let's do two things. I'm going to create a new poll, and while I do that, I will ask everybody to please. We're at 79 likes now. If you could please hit the like button, it does help the live stream out in real time in a big way, so it is appreciated. And let's go to the next poll.
Truck thinks he can hang with me.
just a little different this time.
This poll's taking a little longer, so if you wouldn't mind, hit the like button. Show next year, the first quarter, that Bitcoin miners are going to make a comeback. It's so funny. Looking back, you could see the setup. And it's like, you know.
It's one of those
And now
hindsight's
we're in it.
2020. Right.
Yep.
You look at it and go, I should have saw that coming. But, you know, it's hard. Because the narrative changes so fast and so drastically in this space and in the market sentiment altogether. All right, so I did this a tiny little bit different than usual. What will Bitcoin, it's supposed to say, hit at the peak of the bull market somewhere in 2025, I think, or 2026, if you think it's going to last that long? Is it going to be under 150? Is it never getting to 150? 150, 200,000, $250,000 or higher? Where are we going from here in the next year? So Brett is asking, didn't miners run at this point in 2020? This next quarter is when they had their big moves, and then there was a continuation. Most of the Bitcoin miners hit their all-time high in November, somewhere around November 10th, 2021. So that would be 2025. So yes, they were starting just about now. They were starting to run, and then they ran like crazy. Now in the middle of all that, we had a 50% pullback for Bitcoin. So, you know, that was a rocky road. And there were one or two miners that by November did not reach their highs from, you know, earlier in March. Riot didn't get back to where it was. Marathon got way past where it was. So, you know, most of the Bitcoin miners hit their all-time highs in November of 2021, which would be basically almost a year from where we are right now. Now, that was a good year, so, you know, you don't have to wait for that date. But that's why I say if they go 3 full more months without starting to make a move, especially if Bitcoin's doing anything reasonable at all, then something is wrong. And I'm going to have to reassess. And that's a reassessment of, you know, 5 or 6 years of being in these. I've had times where I've been disappointed but not shocked at the results. That one, if they don't make a move between now and March 31st, and Bitcoin has made either stayed sideways or made a move upward, then that would be very concerning, in my opinion. But that's not what I'm thinking is happening. There's no part of me that's thinking that's what's next. But it's easy to understand on a day where every single Bitcoin miner was red. And on a week where we'll go take a look at the week while you guys are answering that poll. This was not a good week. Let's just take a look. Other than, so here, Bitcoin was down 2% this week. Look at Bitdeer. Like I said, it's up 330-something% in the last 4 months. So even with a week where Bitcoin's down 2%, Bitdeer's still killing it this week. So those of you holding Bitdeer, congratulations. You're hitting it a home run every week for 4 months, pretty much. I think there was 1 week in the middle where it wasn't a good week. Core Scientific was down 1%. The other 11 were red on the week. Core Scientific, I think you got to say they had a good week, down 1% when Bitcoin was down 2%. Bitfarms down 3% when Bitcoin was down 2%. But Bitfarms was closed last week at a number I never thought I would see, and now it's down another 3%. A bunch at 5%, Riot, BitDigital, Hive, Hut at 6%, Marathon down 8% this week, Iron down 9%, CleanSpark down 12%, Cypher 15%, And TeraWulf finally had a pullback. TeraWulf is one of the big winners on the year this year, but they did have a big pullback this week, 16%. So we'll look at year to date, and you'll see they're still one of the winners this year, but there were a lot of losers. And it's December 27th. There's 2 more trading days left for stocks in this year, right? 1.5, I think. One's a half day. So a couple days left. So this is pretty much it.
Well, they put traffic circles down here.
Barry saying, Tom, if you did give financial advice, which I don't, would you be calling this a local Bitcoin bottom? I'm not prepared to call a bottom. I will tell you that I do think the next move is up. But I will never, ever, ever be surprised. We're down. I'm going to go back to the 1 day. You know, from the top to the bottom, we were down 15%. So once you're down, the last 5 times Bitcoin pulled back 15%, it finished the ride and pulled back a full 20%. So I certainly can't sit here and say I will be shocked if that's what happens. I don't think it is what's happening. I think you can see, in my opinion, this is just a lot of consolidation. And we've got this line here, this low that we hit on December 5th. It held perfectly on December 20th. It held again on December 23rd. So we have some short-term, very nice support. But, you know, I got a line at 85,000 that goes back to the beginning of this ascending channel. And that would be even. So that would be about 21.5%. So I can't say I would be shocked. I mean, and our poll showed that it was very close to 50-50 in the poll as to which move, what's the next direction. So my philosophy is if we pull back, so, you know, I don't think we're ever going back. I don't think we're ever going back to 70,000 or 60,000 or 50,000. So to me, whatever we pull back right now, I am going to view as a buying opportunity. That's my personal opinion. So even though these days are painful, you know, when you look at a board that is red across the board, I bought a bunch of stuff because it feels like it was on sale today. And everything was down, and not just a little. I mean, 4.5%, 5%, just under 5%, 5%. Coors was down 3%. TeraWulf was down 9%. I mean, this was not a good day. 100% red. Even the micro nano caps that we don't even follow anymore, they were all red too. So, but I got Bitcoin at $1.59 today. And I put that order in, and I said, if it gets under $1.60, I'm buying it. And it did. Oh, Edmund, thank you. Edmund is saying that there are regular stock hours on New Year's Eve, unlike Christmas Eve. So thanks for the update, Edmund. Let's see. We are at 100 likes. Thank you, everybody. Much appreciated. If you just got here or if you have not yet, smash the like button. It does help us out a lot, so it's much appreciated. Thank you to the now 104 people. Let's see if we can get to 200. And let's take a look at the poll. So this poll went way down from a week ago. We have under 150,000. 23% think that we are going to finish the peak of this bull market at under 150,000. 37% came in first, or 150,000 came in first place at 37%. 200,000 was 22%. 250,000 or more was 18%. So that's 40% of you think we're going to get to 200,000 or more. That was as high as 70% in previous polls. So that's a pretty big pullback. So you can see how quickly expectations have just changed over the last 1 to 2 weeks. So it would be interesting. We'll save this poll and compare notes and see what everybody thinks a week and 2 and 3 and 4 from now. I had said 150 going back a year and a half, and for the last month and a half, I've been saying I feel like I'm low. And, maybe it's going to be more like 175. And I'm still feeling that way. Manuel's saying, I've rotated from Bitfarms to the altcoins, so we can talk altcoins a little bit too. I think all the altcoins, if you're dollar cost averaging in, it seems to me like a lot of the altcoins are at a good number right now. George mentioned he's got an even lower number in mind for XRP, $1.50, I think. But I will tell you, XRP, I've seen more buzz about XRP than anything else over the last month. And I see a lot of very high price targets for XRP, ranging from $5 to $10. So, $10 is a 5x from here, basically. And that could be, and there's a lot of them that have pulled off. Solana has way off of its recent highs. So we're having a little bit of a pullback. We're having a cool off period in the cryptocurrency world. It's not a crash, but we're pulling back. Let's get to some of the announcements, some of the press releases and whatnot. And I'm going to start with CleanSpark. Okay, so this came out December 23rd, this week. CleanSpark exceeds their 2024 year-end guidance of 37 exahash and accelerates their 2025 guidance. So if you watched my deep dive on this, I went into a lot of this, and I'll say the number again that I said. They don't say it in here, but I think they basically have laid the roadmap that they're getting to at least 63 exahash in 2025, in my opinion. They have not specifically said exactly that, but there's 3 pieces of good news in this. Go ahead, George.
Sorry, I had to fill up the gas. Sorry, guys.
Oh, okay. No problem. I thought you were asking a question.
No.
So CleanSpark had raised their guidance, unlike Bitfarms, which missed their guidance substantially. And again, I hold Bitfarms and I bought more of it today, so understand I still think they're going to get where they're going. I think it's going to be a better late than never situation for them. But for CleanSpark, that's not at all the case. They're actually ahead of where they said they were going to be. They said 37 exahash by the end of the year, and they raised that a couple of times during the year, but they got to 37.5 exahash. So this is a gigantic fleet. They're a highly efficient miner. They mine the second most Bitcoin, only second to Marathon. And I think that's likely to be the case for a long time. They've accelerated their guidance to 50 exahash to the first half of 2025. So that was their December 31st, 2025 guidance. It's now their June 30th, 2025 guidance. So they're going to be at 50 exahash. So there's one other company, and they put out a press release as well. Marathon, if everybody does what they say they're going to do, by June 30th, 2025, Marathon, CleanSpark, and Iron are going to be mining substantially more Bitcoin than whoever is in fourth place, which theoretically I think is going to be Riot. And obviously all this is speculation at this point. But nobody else has plans to get anywhere near 50 exahash by June 30th of 2025. Marathon's already there. And CleanSpark is on the way. And then, so I'll just, after I talk about this, I'll go to the next one that's also targeting 50 exahash. The other really good news was they brought their fleet efficiency down to 17.7 joules per terahash. So they grew their fleet And I'm going to go to a chart because this is a really good number. So this is what everybody reported. This is the mining fleet efficiency in November of 2024. So this is per the November updates, which come out in the first 2 weeks of December. CleanSpark was already in second place on this list at 19.05. Iron was in first place by a mile at 15, but now we see 17.7. So in the month of December, they got significantly more efficient. So, that puts them solidly in second place in mining efficiency as it pertains to joules per terahash. So that's how they use their energy. They're also usually in the top 3 in mining efficiency as you measure how many Bitcoin did they mine per exahash. So they're efficient in every way. I don't understand why this company's pulled back 45%, which is why I bought some today. So to me, there's a total disconnect right now between the performance of these companies. Oh, by the way, they've hodled 98% of all the Bitcoin that they mined in 2024. They're coming up on 10,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet. So that's $1 billion of Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Meanwhile, this company is only worth they're at $2.7 billion. So to me, that makes no sense at all. Versus, here's a company that mines 5 times as much as TeraWulf. TeraWulf's at $2.1 billion. And again, I understand everybody's got different business strategies, and TeraWulf's company is not like the one thing I will say about Bitfarms is they are the most adamant. They are Bitcoin miners. They are Bitcoin miners only. They will be using all their money to increase their infrastructure and increase their exahash, including they will not be buying Bitcoin. The only Bitcoin they're going to hodl is the Bitcoin that they mine every month. And they, like I said, they've been hodling most months close about 99% of that. So almost every single Bitcoin they mined this year, they held on to. They're going to get to somewhere in the neighborhood of 10,000 Bitcoin by the end of the year. So to me, everything that I look at in this company feels like good news, other than the stock, which is a falling knife right now. And they say don't catch a falling knife, but I've been in them for a long time. I'm still this is one I've dollar cost averaged into where I'm still, this raised my dollar cost average substantially, but it was justifiable at, in the 9s.
Tom, I'm back and I'm going to log into the 10K challenge. Should I do it?
Only if you want to be disappointed. Iceman has something to say to me and you. Tom and George, how much longer can you keep getting kicked in the blank?
Not much.
It's been a rough run. This was another rough week. December was an awful month, but I will go back. Let's just remember, if we could. November was green. Every single Bitcoin miner in the month of November had a green month. Some of them had huge. Bitdeer, 82%. HUT, 75%. Marathon was up 70% in November. So, I'm going to go to December now. Marathon's down. Oh, sorry, that's year to date. But, so Marathon's down 21% year to date. Let's look at this chart as long as we're here. This chart's the biggest disappointment to me out of all of them. We had a lot of these up over 200%. So here, as we end the year out, and we're not quite there, we have a couple of trading days left. We now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is half the stocks that we talk about on this channel are lower than they were at the beginning of the year. They're down on the year. If you hold these, you've lost money this year if you didn't dollar cost average in. What do you got, George?
4,222.
Yeah, it's almost cut in half from its highs of 2024. So the second half of this year was just a total train wreck for the Bitcoin miners. Now, with that said, Bitcoin was up 125%. I mean, if you hold TeraWolf, you're still up 130% year to date. Bitdeer, you're up 140% year to date. Core Scientific, you're up 153% year to date. And then I'm going to go to MicroStrategy. You're still up 420% year to date on MicroStrategy. So, you know, there have been some decent performance, but even these are not what we expect from our Bitcoin miners, right? We want to do better than this. And this is a disaster. These stocks, Bitfarms down 44% in the year 2024. That is an abject failure. Hive down 34%. Riot 29%. These three that are in a lighter color red, these are a lighter color red because 2 weeks ago, these were green. BitDigital was up on the year 2 weeks ago, and now it's down 25% on the year. Marathon was up on the year 2 weeks ago. It's down 21%. CleanSpark was up. It's down 11% on the year. So, you know, instead of making a run at Bitcoin and catching up to it in December, which is what we were hoping for, you know, a nice Christmas rally, a good December, a good fourth quarter. December's normally a good month for Bitcoin. Well, not for the Bitcoin miners this month. And again, this was this week. So Bitdeer did its thing. It's doing whatever it's doing. Somebody can tell me why Bitdeer is doing what it's doing. But it is on fire. It's up 330% in 4 months. It's up 700+% in the last 14 months. Bitdeer's on fire. And it's probably not done because we're nowhere near done, in my opinion, with this bull market. Barry C is saying there's no real difference between buying Bitcoin and paying to keep the Bitcoin you have mined. Well, buying Bitcoin, you're saying but no, you're not going to sell all your Bitcoin and then go buy Bitcoin. The companies that are buying Bitcoin are keeping all the Bitcoin that they mine, plus they're going out and buying more. And I'm most specifically talking about 3 companies. Number one, Marathon, which is now over 45,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Number 2, Riot, which just bought in the neighborhood of 5,000 Bitcoin. They have over 15,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet. And now Hut has jumped into the game. They held their Bitcoin for the last year. Their number really didn't change within 1% of the same number. But in December, they bought 990 Bitcoin. So there are some companies. So what the distinction is with CleanSpark is, yes, they're going to hold all their Bitcoin just like Marathon is, just like Riot is. But they're not going to then borrow money and go buy even more Bitcoin. So that's the difference with CleanSpark. They would rather take the money they raise and increase their exahash. And I think these companies that are doing this are smart because I think there's a handful. I think half of these 12 companies are preparing for the next halving, not the one that just happened. And half of them are not. And I think out of the half that are not, half of those have decided fundamentally by the next halving, we're going to be high performance computing, energy / AI companies first, Bitcoin second, if at all. That's my opinion. There's companies heading in that direction. Yeah, and the Texan is saying institutions have been long Bitcoin and short miners all year. That was a 2024 trade. I don't think it's going to be a 2025 trade. I don't, because these tend to catch fire, just like Bitdeer did. You know, and they're not going to want to get stuck in a 300% move to the upside being short. So, you know, that's your short squeeze. Some people will get out of their short positions ahead of the short squeeze, and they'll make that money on the way down, and then they'll buy the stock, which will create buying pressure, creating the short squeeze, and then they'll go up. So that's what I think is going to happen for a lot of these stocks. And again, I'm not saying all 12 of these are going to succeed. There may be some that just don't make it, right? Maybe I'm wrong about Bitfarms. Maybe they are going to fail. I don't think that's the case. Yeah, a lot of people are adopting the MicroStrategy strategy, which is basically raise convertible debt, and between Marathon was able to raise that convertible debt at 0% interest. Some expiring in 2030, some expiring in 2031. I think Riot was at 0.75% interest. And I think CleanSpark was at 0% interest. Iron raised some at maybe 3 or 3.25. So you can see they're raising convertible debt at extremely low as 0 interest, which is important. And I think it goes away from another. So I missed another important thing, and it really wasn't in this. It was in their monthly operational report. CleanSpark made something else crystal clear to investors. Actually, they do say it in here. Let me get to it. With the closing of our $650 million zero coupon convertible bond offering, so they raised $650 million at 0%, exceeding guidance and delivering on our fleet efficiency goals. December has been one of the CleanSpark's strongest strategic months to date. Here's the sentence. The capital raised is expected to more than fully fund our expansion to 50 exahash. So they came out and said in the last press release, our at-the-market offering is done. It's closed. We have no short-term intention of opening a new one. And now here they're telling you with this 650, they've got the money to get to 50 exahash by June 30th, 2025. So I think you could see the first half of the year for them where there's no stock dilution. And I know we are all suffering from stock dilution exhaustion from the CleanSpark miners. 2024 was the year of stock dilution, more so than any year in the history of the Bitcoin miners. And CleanSpark was one of the ones. But by the same token, a lot of these companies tripled or quadrupled or 5x'd their fleet in this year. So, you know, that's kind of the equation that I've run through in my deep dives. How did they do in stock dilution versus how much they grew their fleet? And to me, for CleanSpark, it was a really good ratio. And they use their fleet. Don't really have a lot of downtime. So let's get to the other press release again. Well, first, let's get back to this. What will Bitcoin hit at the peak of the bull market?
I picked 150.
So 150 is the winner. 32% think 150. A full quarter of you, 25% of you think we are not going to get to 150 in this bull market cycle. So under 150. 32% at 150. 24% say 200,000. And 19% say 250,000 or higher. So that's 43% think we're going to get 200,000 or higher. And that is way down from the last time we did this, when it was about 70%. So, Everyone's a little bit more pessimistic. That under 150,000 number is higher. So everyone's gotten a little bit more bearish. And I think that's a good thing, right? Sentiment can't be through the roof forever. That's how we get burned, and that's really what happened to us in December. So now, of course, sentiment is lower because this day was ugly, this week was ugly, this month was ugly. Edmund said he picked 250 or more. Nice. I hope you're right, Edmund. I hope you're right. And although I'm saying 175,000 now, I will not be surprised. I try to make it clear. That doesn't mean I'm going to be surprised if it gets to 200 or 250. I think those are totally reasonable expectations. I don't think it's going to get there, but I think they're reasonable expectations. I think when people start to talk about 350 or 500,000 in this cycle, to me, those feel out of reach. But the numbers we put on this board, I think, it's gonna fall into one of these groups. The higher, the better, and I hope Edmund's right. 250 plus.
Tom, did anybody say if they heard that Elon Musk sold?
I did not see that in the comment section anywhere. I have not read every single comment. It's hard for me to keep up.
I'm just curious.
A lot. There's too many comments for me to keep up. So the other company that put out a press release this week was Iron. Iron achieves 31 exahash year-end target. So this is monumental growth for Iron. They raised their year-end target from 20 exahash to 30 exahash. Remember, okay, so they're saying Iron today announced it has reached its year-end target of 31 exahash installed self-mining capacity, surpassing its original goal of 20 exahash. 20 exahash was going to be a double already. But they went to 30, and then they went to 31, and now they're here. We're proud to achieve 31 exahash ahead of schedule, far exceeding the initial year-end target. But there was one other I wanted to get to. Right here. As we progress towards our next milestone of 50 exahash in the first half of 2025. So we just saw CleanSpark say they're going to get to 50 exahash in the first half of 2025. Iron's going to get to 50 exahash in the first half of 2025. And Marathon's already at 50 exahash. In fourth place is Riot, who plans on getting to 37 exahash by the end of 2025, or that may be the end of the third quarter of 2025. So their plans are now. They also, laid out a plan to get to 100 3 years from now. So we'll believe that when we see it. But what I'm saying is, I think you're going to see in the first half of 2025. You're going to see Marathon, CleanSpark, and Iron mine significantly more Bitcoin than all of their competition. I think probably Riot will stay in fourth place. And Riot's been in third place, but, with these plans, I would be shocked if Iron doesn't pass them shortly. But we'll see. So to me, that's how next year is shaping up, and everyone else is going to have to catch up. And some of these companies do have plans to catch up. Some of the way or all of the way. So you got to know your company, and some of them have plans a little bit later in the second half of the year and into 2026, etc. So there's a lot. This is a dynamic space. It's a highly volatile space. It's heavy CapEx space. In the past, that has meant massive stock dilution. Now we seem to have switched. I think there's now 6 companies in the last month or month and a half that have done the convertible debt versus the at-the-market offerings. There are some companies that are doing both. And that is the MicroStrategy way. MicroStrategy, I think, wants to do $22.5 billion in at-the-market offerings and $22.5 billion of convertible debt over the next, I think, 5 years, and buy Bitcoin with the proceeds of all of that, which leads me to this article. MicroStrategy buys a further 5,262 Bitcoin as the stock joins the NASDAQ 100. So I think that's a big deal, being in the NASDAQ 100. Now, based on the Bitcoin's activity, MicroStrategy is actually way down since yesterday, or Monday, I believe, was its first day in the NASDAQ 100, which is the Qs if you trade ETFs. So it's now in the Qs. But the purchase takes MicroStrategy to 444,262 Bitcoin. And they have no intention of stopping. So the sky is the limit. Let's end
When
this.
are they going to have to balance it, Tom? When are they going to have to balance that position with the people that own the Qs, the hedge funds? Don't they have like not hedge funds, mutual funds?
Well,
where they have to.
The Qs are balanced. It depends on the performance of the Qs, but the first thing is, by joining the Qs, the Qs are an ETF, so they now have to buy MicroStrategy in proportion to where their size is, and they're actually in the top half. That's 100 companies. They're in the top half. I think they were the 42nd largest company, and you'll have to fact check me on that, because I'm just remembering that from one article I read a week ago. So it may not be exactly right, but I think they're the 42nd largest company in the NASDAQ 100. But having said that, the top 5 companies in the NASDAQ 100 are so many multiples bigger than this. They're 30 times the size of this company. So, it's obviously it's not a huge part of the ETF, but it's very, and we looked at an article last week that talked about, once they adopt the new FASBs, it's likely they're going to qualify for the S&P 500. So that would be even bigger than this. That would be the SPY.
Wow. That's crazy.
So this formula has worked for them. I mean, even with this pullback, they have had a big pullback. But even with that, let's go to their chart. Right from the peak here, they're down, they're down almost 40% again in a month from their peak. And their peak was the day, you'll see their peak was this giant red candle, because that's when the short report was put out on them. But you can see, they've held this line of support. They haven't tanked. I think they're consolidating. And I think this chart looks okay to me. You can see they've reset the RSI. They're back somewhere, under 50, between 45 and 50. It looks to me like they've bottomed out on the MACD. They had a bearish crossover probably that same day. And it looks like it's running its course. We'll see how long this lasts. And then I think it'll start heading back up at some time in the next couple of weeks. And I think it's got a long way to go to the upside. And it's Edmund who's been saying that, Edmund said that, before this 420% increase. So Edmund's a member, and he's been saying on the Friday, everybody live stream, and the members only live stream every single week all year. Just buy MicroStrategy, Bitcoin, and I think XRP, if I'm right. But the number one thing Edmund's talked about is MicroStrategy. And that paid off huge. And we do have a few members as well that have been screaming Bitdeer at the top of their lungs, and obviously that's paid off huge in the last 4 months. So those were really the two major press releases this week. There were a couple of other minor press releases, but and then again, so Iron and CleanSpark are both going to 50 exahash, and they're the two from a joules per terahash. They currently have the two most efficient fleets. Meanwhile, their stocks are getting wrecked. So this is when it's hard to buy, right? Everybody, if we go all the way back, who now today doesn't wish they bought CleanSpark at $1.74? But nobody bought it at $1.74. That was an extremely low volume day, week, month, right? This was in the crypto winter. Everything was a nightmare. Everything was going to zero. We were almost a year into talking about how CleanSpark's going to have to do a reverse, or sorry, that's actually Bitfarms. They were talking reverse stock split. That conversation did not really start up with CleanSpark on the reverse stock split. But $1.74, right? This ran from $1.74 up to $23. Now it's pulled all the way back to under $10, but even that from the bottom, you're up 465%. This is how a lot of people, and it depends when you joined in. Everybody has a different cost basis. I held on to some stuff I shouldn't have held on to at the end of the last bull market, but I did dollar cost in all the way through the bear market. And it got some of my numbers really low because you can see some of these things. I mean, when people were afraid, I was buying this huge. But I already owned a lot of CleanSpark by then. So to me, the opportunity to dollar cost average in at $1.74 was irresistible. So Edmund saying the current NASDAQ rating for MicroStrategy is number 46. Thank you, Edmund. I had 42 in my head, but it sounds like it was actually 46. So if I just remeasure this. So they're down 46%. So CleanSpark's down 46% in the last month and a half, right? With what I think has been a series of outstanding announcements, massive growth. They're the second largest Bitcoin miner. They mine the second most Bitcoin every month for several months in a row, and it's not even close. Third is distant. And their stock, in that period of time, their stock is getting decimated. So let's see what's happening to Iron, who ran themselves from 10 up to 31 exahash. They're down about 33% in the month of December. So now, it's kind of right back to, right, they had a little support here. And that goes back, that line goes all the way back to December of 2023. So that was resistance, and resistance turned into support, and we're still above that. So could this pull back a little bit more? It may test this and bounce off of it. But I think, most of us think ultimately we're going a lot higher than this. This did get up to almost $18. So while it was a rough week, it was a rough month, and I'm going to go to the year to date because honestly, for most of us, this was a rough year. If the Bitcoin mining part of your portfolio looked like this year. So, if your three holdings were Core Scientific, Bitdeer, and TeraWolf, you had a very nice year. If your three holdings were Riot, Hive, and Bitfarms, you did not have a nice year. By the way, I own 2 of those 3. 4 of my 5 Bitcoin miners were red. So somebody had told me last week you'd have been way better off just sitting in Bitcoin, which in 2024 was very, very true. So, but I don't try to time this. In 2023, the opposite was true. The Bitcoin miners outperformed Bitcoin 3-1, some of them 4-1, 5-1, 6-1. But now we paid for it in 2024. So I am hoping 2025 we flip back to a more healthy performance for the Bitcoin miners. That is what I think. That is what my opinion is.
I gotta sell Bitcoin, Tom.
You're going to sell?
I don't want to do it. Well, I have free money, free tax money.
Oh, gotcha.
You know, and it's like you got to do a strategy, and you gotta take that. You know what I mean? That's worth 2 times the amount.
Well, I mean, there's sometimes you got to buy or sell for tax strategies, but it
just hurts. I don't want to do it. I'm waiting for the New Year's Eve push. Pump. It could be the blasting off time too. 1125.
So
Or 25 could be the blast. February 5th, 25. You heard it here first. That's the launch party for Bitcoin.
what was that day again?
February 5th, 25.
February 5th?
Yeah,
That's your call?
that's my call.
So MicroStrategy to 3,650 is saying, Tom, from cycle bottom to present day, only 3 miners have beat Bitcoin. So I will do that chart and check that, but I don't that doesn't sound right to me. So let's do Bitcoin first. This isn't hard to figure out. I got to go to the 1 week if I'm going to do this. Right, we double bottomed back here in November and December. So if we go from that, it was 15,460. Bitcoin's up 608%. So listen, that's a grand slam home run. If for those of you just holding Bitcoin, I will never argue against that. That's a grand slam home run. But I think even the lowly Bitfarms, which to me is at a number that's unfathomable. Go to the 1 week. People forget how low was. Bitfarms got down to 37 cents. So even after a gigantic pullback for Bitfarms over the last few months, it's up, well, it's only up 342%. And at its peak, it was up 935%. But you're right. So if you're holding Bitfarms, your Bitcoin's crushing it from there to here. Now, Bitfarms is one of the worst performers. Let's go to some mid-level performers. Core Scientific doesn't really count. I mean, they've gone ballistic. They're up like 3,000% from the bottom. But remember, that counted going through a bankruptcy. So Core Scientific, while they did destroy Bitcoin, I'm not sure that one's fair to count. Go to Iron, $1. Iron got down to $1.02. So that's up 950%. So Iron's beating Bitcoin. I won't waste everybody's time right now and do this, but that's an interesting question you bring up. I will do that for each of these from the bottom of the bear market to where they are right now. And they're all way off of their highs right now. You can see even for iron, we kind of had a double top here in 2024, and we'll see what comes next. Right? Because from the bottom to the top, well, and to be fair, I should be going from the bottom to the top because I did that for Bitcoin. And Bitcoin's way off of its high. That's 1,400%. So if I go back to Bitcoin, we should really be looking at from the bottom. Right now. So we're up 500. We're up over 500% on Bitcoin right now. And we were at the peak up over 600%. But I think you're going to be surprised how many Bitcoin miners have outperformed that from the bottom to the top. But it's a great question. That's something worth following. So I'm going to write that note. Right? Even if you look at CleanSpark, which has gotten destroyed lately. That's up 461% after, getting decimated. If you go to the top, it was up 1,300%. So the question is, do you think that all these
I
have
thought that
peaked?
was a cop in front of us.
Right? Because
look at the thing on it. It's like, it has this like a sticker on it.
cop in front of you is okay. Cop behind you is what you want.
No, yeah, exactly.
So we'll see how this plays out. And it's been a battle, and it's gone back and forth. Sometimes the Bitcoin miners have been ahead. Some Bitcoin miners have flip-flopped back and forth. And again, obviously, Bitcoin's the underlying asset. And if you're holding that, that's I'll never argue against that. So Joe said, I finally sold Riot after bag holding it at a big loss to tax harvest my gains. So that's another reason some of these are tanking. This is tax loss harvesting season right now. And, and that goes both ways. Georgia's reverse tax loss harvesting. So, Riot, if we go back to Riot's down 29% this year. And depending on when you bought it and where you bought it, I mean, you could be worse than that. You could be better than that. But, there's a lot of people that probably got burned because if you look at Riot's chart, I got to get out of this 1 week. In December of 2023, Riot was at $18.75. In February, it was at $18. Again, on February 27th, it was at $18. So, now it's down at $11. There's a lot of people that are probably way down on their Riot, and they're selling it for a loss to offset their gains for the year. So, a lot of these red Bitcoin miners, I suppose it's not a shock that things got worse, not better here at the end of the year. But we're basically at the end of that. People got 2 more days to tax loss harvest. So I bought a bunch of stuff today. If for whatever reason, maybe there's more of that on Monday and Tuesday and the market tanks again, I'll buy more. Again, I'm not telling you to do that. That is not financial advice. These are, this did not play out well for me in 2024. The only thing that I'm up on is my iron and my Bitcoin. And it's the Bitcoin ETF. So those are my 2 positive positions. Everything
If you
else
had
was red this
XRP,
year.
baby, you'd say XRP too.
Yeah, XRP outperformed all of this.
Man, maybe I should sell some of that. I don't know. Because that's probably, I'm going to probably do 50 and 50. 50% Bitcoin and 50% XRP.
Let's end this poll.
But thank goodness for crypto, because if not, I wouldn't be a happy camper. If I just had the Bitcoin miners, I'd be looking for an open window up high.
Yeah, those were very opposite experiences for you, but you crushed it on your crypto in 2024. You absolutely crushed it.
You know what's funny though, Tom, is looking at it, I had a number, I crossed that number. I really am not, I've just traded the money from Bitcoin miners into crypto. That's all I've done.
Right. You've lost over there what you gained over there.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, that's rough. But
I mean,
let's
probably
see.
a little bit better, but you know,
Robbie's
I'm not
saying,
ready to sell the Bitcoin miners yet, though. That's stupid of me, I'm sure, but
well, we got Robbie Rose saying Mara and CleanSpark are great buys. We got Neil saying you should not sell your Riot. So I don't think this is a good time to sell Riot, especially because of the tax loss harvesting that's going on. You know, I don't think this is a good time to sell your Bitfarms unless you truly think, you know what, they're about to fail. They're so low right now, it's ludicrous. And there's some really, let's go to that chart. If you go to Bitfarms, like I had a box here that I thought was going to hold. Right, we had one outlier right here where it spent 2 days underneath this line at $1.65 it was. So that I thought $1.65 would hold. We've gone under that. This is now 1 and now 2 days that will close under that. But we have a super strong line at $1.50. So even if we pull all the way back to that, I just cannot see a scenario where Bitfarms goes under $1.50 other than getting some new piece of information that tells us something we know nothing about has gone horribly wrong. And, you know, obviously that could be true with any company that you own. So that shouldn't be one of your investment processes.
Tom, is it cloudy down there?
Yes.
Dude, that's crazy. It's cloudy all the way from Atlanta all the way down. I haven't seen the sky yet.
You might not the rest of the way because
Wow, that's crazy.
it's a cloudy day. Sour Melon Gaming. Words of advice to anyone here not married. Don't do it. It's a trap. My wife's been yelling at me to get off the stream for 20 minutes.
What'd you think? Oh. Get off the stream.
Don't sell Bitcoin.
Don't sell it. Yeah, I know. Trust me. I don't want to.
So admin is saying don't sell Bitcoin. Bitcoin may become non-taxable in 2025 and 2026.
Ooh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm sure you can. Or maybe he's watching TV. I don't know.
So we're getting ready to wrap up. What you got? Anything else, George? What else is going on?
Oh, I'm just driving. Nothing's going on. He closed. We just opened the garage door back up. Now Becky's gonna close it. Nothing. Just
Is that taken care of?
I can tell you that the internet is next year, and the internet. Wow, that's the only thing I can say is wow. With the technology and the advancement of AI, Tom, It's a whole new game on the internet. It's insane what you can do now.
So are you feeling like next year is going to be a good year for the Bitcoin miners? That's our
Kind of the
quickie
theme, I
exit
think.
poll, and then we'll call it.
I'm going yes, by the way. It's funny when you see a bad driver.
We'll just leave it that simple. Is 2025 going to be a good year for the Bitcoin miners? And to me, at a bare minimum, it has to outperform Bitcoin. It really should. They should really 2x or 3x Bitcoin. That's what they're supposed to be doing, especially since they fell behind this year, some of them. So
the way they beat them up so bad, you could tell it's like a setup. You can almost feel like they're going to skyrocket. I mean, I honestly feel like they're going to skyrocket.
I do too. That's why, the person asked me, I think Sour Mountain Gaming asked me, if by March 31st, if they haven't moved, are you going to be worried? And my answer is yes, because I do think the move is coming.
Yeah, I think they're going to go nuts, Tom, because they know, the big money knows what this last quarter is going to be like for these Bitcoin miners. And they do what they do and they flush everybody out.
They're good at it. You can see they've got, even people, even the people in here on this group, on this stream, which are the people that are in this space, are a lot more discouraged than they were a week or two ago. And most, we get comment after comment. These stocks are garbage. They're trash. They're all going to zero. And so agree to disagree. I feel like, so my answer is yes. I think 2025 is going to be a very good year for the Bitcoin miners. Not financial advice. That is my opinion. That is what happened in the last cycle. So that would line up cyclically with, the Bitcoin 4-year cycle. That's no guarantee by any means, but I do think you're going to see that. I think you're going to see a lot of these show a lot of profitability, and when the FOMO has not yet begun in Bitcoin, never mind the Bitcoin miners. So I think the better days are ahead.
Especially when you think about it, Marathon basically has the same strategy as MicroStrategy, right? Why have they gotten destroyed?
Right. They got destroyed. And they have the same strategy. Now, they're years behind. MicroStrategy's got 10 times as much, but they're the number 1 and 2 holders of Bitcoin out of any publicly traded company in the world. Now, right. MicroStrategy owns almost 10 times more than Marathon, but they're going to close that gap. I'm not saying they're going to catch them. Marathon will close that gap. MicroStrategy will probably always be the company that has the most Bitcoin on its balance sheet. The ETFs now have over 1 million Bitcoin in total. So, Bitcoin it is scarce, and there's big groups and companies, and adoption is real, right? And it hasn't even been a year, and there's 1 million Bitcoin in the ETFs. So that's likely got no place to go but up. MicroStrategy, we know, is already allocated another $40 billion towards buying Bitcoin. And we know Marathon's buying Bitcoin, et cetera, et cetera. And the retail investor,
I'm going to tell you my best trade so far. It's all been in crypto. It's been HBAR and XLM. XLM. Those two, I've just timed them right. And I've got in, I've gotten out. And just been
Chainlink, I think you got in and out really good.
Which one?
Chainlink.
Oh yeah.
The day you told me you got out was pretty much within 1 day of the peak.
Isn't that crazy? You can see it. You can see it. And it's when you are too greedy is when you don't make any money on crypto. They're fun. They move all the time too.
All right, I'm going to hit Sour Melon Gaming, and then we'll say good night. Sour Melon Gaming, thank you for being a member. Thanks for the super chat. Will Bitcoin supply run out in 2025? So this, is the supply going to keep getting tighter and tighter? There's always going to be some Bitcoin available, but yeah, there could be a squeeze just from a supply on-chain supply shortage, which is why, true crypto people say, get your Bitcoin off-chain. Get it
in your wallet.
In your own wallet. So, that could cause a squeeze.
I already think it's there.
Serious?
All right, I'm going to call it good night. I got some family in town I'm going to catch up to. Any last thoughts, Joe? Oh, is 2025 going to be a good year for the Bitcoin miners? 87% say yes.
Yeah.
13% say no. So it's not unanimous, but overwhelmingly we feel like next year is going to be better than this year. So I hope that we're all right about that. George, drive safely. Everybody else, thank you so much for joining us on the stream.
See you guys.
I hope everybody has a great weekend. To the members, we'll have to figure out about Tuesday. That's Christmas or New Year's Eve. And then to everybody else, we will see you live for everybody next Friday.